This is Q&A with Melissa Rohan. I'm Melissa Rohan. I am the founder and head of school here at Waterfront Academy. We're a dual language English-Spanish Montessori school in the Catholic tradition. And we've been doing this for 11, 12 years. So this is, I've got a lot of experience in this. And we like to take questions from parents or teachers or anybody that's interested in educating children. I have experience working with children as young as toddlers all the way up through adolescence. And then I have 3 of my own children as well. So with that, I'm going to take the first question. And the first question is about playground etiquette. This question is coming from a mother who had a negative experience at a public playground, and her daughter, who was the younger of the 2 children in question, had an uncomfortable situation where the older child didn't play the same way as the younger child. And the older child would have been, I'm guessing, in this second plane of development, whereas her daughter is in the first plane of development. Here are some of my thoughts on this that I wanted to share with you. When it comes to public playgrounds have rules posted. And part of those rules, it'll tell you the age group that the playground is meant for. And they might have like different sections of the playground, and this section is meant for this age group, and this section is meant for this age group. And so you can figure out where your child belongs on the playground. And I think that this is a really important consideration. And let me tell you why. So when these numbers, these ages are posted on the playground, it is not arbitrary. There's a lot of thought that goes behind that. And one of the thoughts is developmentally, where are children at this point in time, both social, emotional, as well as in their motor skills and their risk. And the reason that they do this, so you don't have like playground equipment and any child can go on this playground equipment, is because for safety issues, right? So the manufacturer of the equipment needs to cover their bottom, as well as the government or whoever paid for whoever land it is. So if it's private, but usually these are public playgrounds. And so the city wants to cover their bottom, or whoever owns the land and is paying the insurance, they want to cover their bottoms. So this is really done with a lot of thought and care. So if you go onto the playground, you then assume the risk if you ignore the rules, right? So if you ignore the rules and you go onto the playground and your child is not where they are supposed to be, or you're not following the rules, then you are assuming the risk. And so I just wanted to put that out there from the onset. The other thing is that I don't think it's a reasonable expectation on your child or another child to be able to navigate the different planes of development, right? So let me explain that. If your child is in that first plane of development, they're usually pretty parallel playing. They'll play next to each other. They might even talk to each other depending on the age, but they're not really playing together as in like a dialogue back and forth or building on each other's imagination or anything like that, or even on their skill sets. Like they're not playing together, they're playing side by side in parallel. And that is a reasonable expectation for a child in the first plane of development, which is ages 0 to 6. Now, if the child is in the second plane of development, which would be 6 to 12, they're going to play very differently. They're going to be more imaginative. They're going to be playing with the other child. They're going to have more abilities, and especially the first 3 years of that development, they may not be very aware that the other child may not have those same abilities and strengths when it comes to motor or balance or things like that. So I don't think it's a reasonable expectation, especially somebody who, for a child 6, 7, or 8, to understand that a child that is 4, 5, or 6 may not have those same abilities and so may not be able to play the same way. So I just, between the equipment itself and understanding that those rules and those age brackets are there intentionally with a lot of thought. And then on the other side, just the expectation of children that they're not going to play the same, right? Like sharing doesn't mean the same thing for a child in the first plane as it does in the second plane. So things like that. So a child in the second plane also can't expect a child in the first plane to share the same way as they might expect. Okay. So that is where I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover on the playgrounds, but I think that's a really great question. And I think that's something that frustrates parents a lot because I hear this a lot. So I really have been meaning to cover this for a while. And I think it's an important question. So if you go to the playground and there's multiple playgrounds on the playground, find the one that your child belongs to. If you are there and you are outside of that age group, then understand you are assuming the risks and the responsibilities associated with the playground since you are not following the rules of the playground. And it, again, that's fine if everybody understands that we're all in the same understanding here. So moving on to the second question. Here's the question. How, as a mother of young children, do I find time and like enter in the time for blah, And I think that this is a really good question. So in the past, it's been like, how do I find time to pray? How do I find time to go to church? How do I find time to exercise? It's those kinds of things that are really important to ourselves. And when you've got young children, they are very demanding of your time, as they should be. Like, this is normal. So that is the question. So I think I have 2 bits of advice on this. The first is give yourself some grace, right? This time with your young child it's finite. It's a little bit of time when you consider our time on earth in whole. And so understand that this is a very temporary condition for you. It's not forever. And I know that's easier said than realized, because while you're in the middle of it, it seems like it's going on forever and will continue to go on forever. It does not. And so I would embrace it. It in ways that make sense to you. So give yourself a little bit of grace, and then give yourself also some very reasonable expectations, right? Has your life changed since you've had a child? Absolutely. Like, yes, of course. And is that change bad? No, not at all. Your life just got better. I think as soon as you have children, your life gets better. And it's hard to see at first when you are exhausted and maybe haven't taken a shower in a day. You're not wearing makeup and you're not going out with your girlfriends, right? So that in your former life would have been the standard of enjoying your life. But your life has changed, and so for the better. And so you have to look at it with reasonable expectations. And I think I would give yourself some reasonable expectations. And I don't know what it looks like for you, but I figured out what it was for me. And so for that short amount of time, I didn't wear high heels. Okay. Like, that was a sad thing for me, but I was like, it's not reasonable for me to wear high heels when I'm carrying 3 children, right? I had when my third one was born, I had a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I was carrying the baby, and the 4-year-old was like, I want to be carried too. And then I'm carrying a 4-year-old and a newborn. And then the 6-year-old's like, can I jump on? And yeah, okay, jump on my back. So I was carrying 3 children at some points when I when they were young. And I look back on that time and I'm just like, wow, that's wonderful. Couldn't do it in high heels, right? Like that's not a reasonable expectation. Maybe another reasonable expectation is like, I'm not going to buy the most expensive shoes, right? Like spending $500 on a pair of shoes when you've got children at home, it just doesn't make sense. And then, like, you know, the children are going to vomit. You're going to end up having to step through puddles. Like, it just didn't make sense. I keep on focusing on shoes. I guess that was really important to me back then. Keeping these things in mind that it's just a short amount of time and then your life, like, it kind of shuffles out and it's fine. It really is. And like enjoying those moments with your children. I mean, my goodness, like I remember the first time each of them took their first steps and the first time that they looked at me and smiled, and I knew it wasn't because they were hungry. And I just and oh my gosh, and the way they used to hug me, oh, it just melts my heart. Those are just these beautiful things. And so understanding that this is a short amount of time and that the expectations need to change a little bit, just shift a little. Um, the other thing is creating routines. So if it's important for you to take time to get ready for bed and that bed routine looks like da 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 da, then I would set an alarm so oh, now's the time for me to like get ready for bed so that I can get my child ready for bed, right? So I'm going to go and brush my teeth and do that whole routine, and it's going to take me 20 minutes or whatever it is. So, okay, the alarm went off. I got 20 minutes to do these things that are important to me so that I can then take care of my babies and getting them ready for bed, right? So creating routines. If the routine is going to church on Sunday, right? Then create the routine so that it's just you don't even have to think about it. It's a routine that you do on Sunday. We're going to walk to church so that the children's energy is a little lower energy going into church, and we're going to be able to like enjoy our mass the best we can. And then after mass we're going to go for brunch, and we're going to go to this place at this time with these people, and it's just a routine and that's it. And you don't stray from the routine because then it's easier to maintain. If like this Sunday we're going to this church, and this Sunday we're going to that church, and this Sunday we're going to drive, and this Sunday we're going to bike, and this Sunday we're going to go to this place for brunch, and this Sunday we're going to go to that place for brunch. Well, you know what? Like you're setting yourself up for failure, because it's really hard to get everybody to agree to anything and to move forward. So you just create a routine. If you want to make sure you have time for prayer, right? Then I would say, hey, figure out a time when you can have prayer and it's attached to something that you're going to do every day, anyways, right? So if you're going to drive to work every day anyways, then you attach it to that. Or you're going to brush your teeth every day, right? Like we just talked about that. So make sure your prayer is attached to brushing your teeth. Or if you're going to do laundry every day, I love this because that one came from a friend of mine, then you're going to attach your prayer to laundry every day. So whatever you're going to do every day or multiple times a day, then attach that concrete, this is going to happen every day, to that prayer. And then like it just happens like clockwork. That is my 2 big tips when it comes to finding time as a mother for blank, cleaning, prayer, church, working out. I would say also your husband, like finding time for your husband, like make a routine out of it and talk together about what's a reasonable expectation, right? The third question that I have is about self-care, which kind of relates to the one I was doing before, but I'm going to go further into self-care specifically because I find that this is one that a lot of women don't talk about. A lot of mothers, excuse me, don't talk about. Women talk about it in general. Mothers of young children do not. So when I talk about self-care, when you have young children, it can feel a little bit like just surviving. In order to survive, okay, so that you can be there for your children and to be 100%, you're going to need to take care of yourself. You cannot take care of others if you are not whole. If you are just less than whole, but not empty, then you're not really able to give as much as you would want. So you need to be whole. And I think that comes in a few different forms, right? So it comes by a body, mind, and spirit. Okay. So you need to make sure that you're taking care of your prayer life and you need to be going to church. We just talked about that. You're going to need to make sure that you are also taking care of your body. So that means you need to be eating well and you need to be exercising. Like those two things need to happen. I feel like that's the one thing that goes first. First, we get rid of the eating well and the exercise. And I'm actually talking from experience on this one about how important this is. And so the thing that helped me with self-care, specifically with eating well and exercising, was to get a buddy. I started out working out on my own. And I think a routine is going to help, like being consistent with the routine. So you know this is going to happen at this time on this day at this place. So routine helps, but I think like having an accountability buddy really, really helps as well. And maybe that's somebody that's going with you to work out. So you have somebody, so it's social and it's fun, but maybe it's also like you're talking to somebody on the phone or on FaceTime and you're like, I did this thing and, or a group chat on WhatsApp or something like that. And there's a group of you who are like keeping each other accountable and like encouraging each other. I think that that's really, really important. And I don't think that we give as young mothers, I'm not that anymore, but as young mothers, that a priority. But it is truly a priority because if you are not healthy enough to play with your child, I mean, think about that. Like, if you're not healthy enough to run around or ride a bike or, or carry your children, like, how sad is that? Like, this is just a life, a life minimum. Like, at a minimum, I want to be able to be there and enjoy my children. And so, if that is like just the minimum, like, you need to like take care of yourself to meet that minimum. And so that's self-care. That's a really big one. Exercise and nutrition. And also, like, with these accountability partners or buddies that you've got, the two between you as a collective, you can find best practices and tips and tricks and make it work for you and your family, in your circumstances. And that is, I think, is going to be really, really important. And your children need to see you take care of yourself. Like, I think that's really important. Generally a woman problem because women generally see their role as taking care of others, and it is. And so they forget to take care of themselves, but that's really important in order for them to take care of other people. And so I just really feel that that's very important to make sure everybody knows about. I'm going to conclude my first live Q&A with Melissa Rohan. We'll see how this plays out. And if it works out, we'll do this again. Otherwise, I'll just pre-record and upload. But we'll try this a couple more times and I'm going to learn and see how it goes. All right. Until next time, have a good one.